If you've ever found yourself in the middle seat on a cross-country flight, fighting tooth and nail with a sick person beside you for the armrest, then you know what a pain it is to fly commercial. Sure, you end up where you're going if you're lucky, but do you actually enjoy the journey? While sitting back in seat 42E for some flying does sound great, imagine having a different experience with actual luxury. And I'm talking about actual luxury. Start sailing high above the clouds in a plush leather seat, making conference calls and whisking yourself off to an exotic destination if you have a private jet. A private jet is one of the first investments a multi-millionaire often makes for him or herself. It's a luxury to travel in a private jet for a number of reasons, including not having to fight over an armrest, not having to go through security, and best of all, no lines. While all of the things I mentioned sound great, there do happen to be some financial drawbacks, and not all of it is as luxurious as it sounds or may seem. Today, we're going to take a look at how much it truly costs to own a private jet. I'll even include how much it costs yearly to fly and maintain the private jets, so you'll know exactly what it takes to own a private jet. Once you buy the actual plane, it's not really just a one-and-done situation. You have to pay for every takeoff, every landing, every bag of peanuts, and yes, even every bottle of wine. Then there are the rent fees where you have to pay whenever your plane has a layover. There are landing fees which vary from $100 to $500 where you have to pay for every single landing your plane makes. There are also hangar fees which cover the cost of parking your plane in a hangar. After all, if you spent $100 million on your plane, chances are you're not going to want it sitting out in the rain. On average, hangar fees land around $81,000 per year if you want your plane parked and ready to go at a moment's notice. For example, LAX charges up to $12,000 per month, and that's not even counting the staggering $140,000 they charge on top of that at the end of the year. Of course, flying is considered a rather dangerous endeavor, so you'll need insurance, and not just one kind. All insurance, which covers the plane and all of its systems, will cost you around $34,000 per year. On top of that, if you're the owner of the jet, you'll need single liability insurance, which tacks on another fee of $12,500. That's not even mentioning fuel costs, which vary from plane to plane but can cost as much as $53,000 for a single fill, if you're keeping track. So far, our expenses are steadily climbing to a fairly high altitude. Now sure, the plane is important, but unless you're a pilot, you're going to need a crew and you're going to have to shell out quite a bit of money to keep them around. On average, you can expect to pay about $215,000 per year for a pilot, co-pilot, and 2 flight attendants. You have to pay overnight fees for your crew, which can include launching, transportation, and food. And if you're planning on staying at a destination for a while, you can send your crew back to your home base. That'll cost you a repositioning fee. On top of all these necessary fees, there are a few random outliers that go with operating such a complex piece of machinery. If you're flying to Cuba to Florida in the middle of December looking to escape to a warmer climate, you'll have to pay a de-icing fee before your wheels hop off the tarmac. If something goes wrong with your jets, you can look at paying as much as $60,000 for a new windshield or $8,000 for a new tire. In other words, cross your fingers and hope that your jet never has any repairs that need to be made. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty of the price difference between aircraft. The most common private jet in the world is a Cessna Citation XLS, a small firecracker of a jet that can seat 8 people along with 4 crew members. The Cessna is a bit dated, but it's often upgraded and fitted with all new technology and luxurious touches. Buying an updated Cessna will cost you around $14 million. If you want to buy a 10-year-old basic model, it'll run you about $4 million. If you're flying around 200 hours per year, that's enough to jet from Los Angeles to London about 15 times. It'll cost you around $805,000 to maintain the plane. That rounds out to about $10.15 per mile. But maybe you want something a little nicer than an old Cessna Citation XLS. Maybe you want something luxurious like the Gulfstream G650. I can't say enough about this plane, which a close friend of mine decided to purchase many years ago. This jet has a lounge area with a sofa and a flat-screen television that pops out of a credenza. The credenza also has an added bonus, a wine cabinet where chilled bubbly waits. Yeah, it has everything, and since it was my friend's jet, he normally kept it cold Bud Light in there. The Gulfstream also has a dining room and a private stateroom where a couch folds out into a double-sized bed. For being 30,000 feet above the ground, the bed is fairly comfortable. And let me tell you from experience, there is nothing like this bed. The cost of this plane is painfully expensive, which is why you can't just be a millionaire and own a private jet. It costs $1.6 million a year just to operate the Gulfstream, which is what some people consider to be a lot of money, and that's just for the maintenance. When you consider how much the plane costs to buy, it doesn't seem so bad. The price tag on this beauty is $65.5 million. You're talking about a lot of money. Of course, you don't have to buy a plane, you can charter one instead. I actually charter private jets all the time. It's not cheap, but it sure is a hell of a lot cheaper than owning a private jet. If you're chartering a small plane, you can expect to pay between $2,000 to $3,000 per hour. The Cessna Citation, which is considered a mid-sized plane, costs around $9,500 per hour, but the Gulfstream will cost you around $13,000 per hour. If you're flying from New York to London every week, you're going to rack up some pretty hefty chartering rates. All in all, the world of private jets is an exciting and very enticing luxury. However, it does happen to be downright expensive. What do you think of the costs of owning and operating private jets? Would you prefer to buy one or just charter it? As always, be sure to keep up and stay in the lap of luxury by liking, subscribing, and turning on those post notifications so you never miss an upload. We'll see you at the next video.